Annunciation Latin class, capitulum nonum, pastor et oves redux. Yeah, basically we're going to kind of go back through some things, even into chapters 7 and 8. And I'll explain in a minute what I'm doing. But let's get started with our oratio initialis. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So what I meant by that is we're going to go back through all of these wonderful little 3 and 4 letter, well, even 2, 2, 3, and 4 letter words. There seems to be a certain amount of struggling there, so I thought maybe I'd review that to hopefully clear it up. Latin makes some distinctions. Does ventris specifically mean womb? It means belly in general, okay? But when you're referring to it in that context, it is the womb. The fruit of, the fruit of thy belly doesn't really, make much sense. And so it refers here to the womb. Okay, where was I? Because we'll try and get some of these straightened out here. The first thing I wanted to mention is edo, edera, which means to eat. And in the Familia Romana, we saw the verb as est and edunt, okay, meaning he eats, they eat. And I think it was Laura that asked about that. Now, the question she had was, if the verb is edo, edera, shouldn't it be edit or edit and edunt? And the answer is yes and no. Edo has a regular inflection, as in edo, edis, edit, edimus, editus, edunt. So this is correct. But the more common one is the edo, ace, and est. So the second and third persons are long for the sake of distinction from sum es est. There is a single instance of edit, in the Vulgate. Usually the Vulgate uses comedit or manducat. Manducat literally means to chew or devour. It's a little stronger, but the Vulgate, Jerome avoided the whole problem and just said comedit. So yes, est and edent are right, and edit and edunt are also right, if somewhat archaic. Any questions? Okay. So let's start in on the pronouns. All right. We don't really use these in the Familia Romana much yet. Personal pronouns, pronomia personalia, stand in for a given noun in the place of the noun itself. It gets boring, saying the same noun over and over and over again. So most languages have personal pronouns. Now, what's unique about Latin is technically it only has first and second person pronouns. It does not have third. So the he, she, it we have in English doesn't exist as a personal pronoun. All right. Now, and by the way, these guys are exactly the same as they are in English. But what about is, ea, id, which we saw earlier in the Familia Romana? Okay, they're really not personal pronouns, but they can be used as such. There's something called a demonstrative, which can function like the English third person pronoun in most cases. And I believe I told you at the time, for the moment, pretend they really are he, she, and it. And you can probably pretend they're he, she, and it for quite some time, but there is a subtle difference there. Now, let me explain what a demonstrative is. Both English and Latin have something called demonstratives. Comes from demonstrate, to show off, to point out. So the demonstratives point out or refer back to something else to highlight the particular item. There are demonstrative pronouns and demonstrative adjectives, and both function pretty. Yeah, I'm not sure where that red squiggle came from. I think that might have been, let's see, is there a way to clear that? Let me see. Yeah. It's there from Zoom. So I don't, oh, no, see, I don't know why I can't see, can I get rid of it? Oh, it's just hanging there on the Zoom screen. Huh, interesting. Oh, well.
Yeah, Michael, I might have did it by accident. I don't know how I did it, but I'm using
Yeah,
my iPad.
Zoom has a way of, you can actually, write on the screen and, oh, annotate. There it is. So what I need to do is select the annotation, maybe. Oh, maybe I can use the eraser. There we go. I got rid of it.
Oh, cool. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. So anyway, yeah, the demonstrative pronouns and adjectives, they function basically similarly. The difference is a pronoun replaces the noun whose identity can be understood from the context. It indicates whether it's near or far from the speaker or the writer in location and time. And you'll see, this, that, and these on the next slide here. Adjectives are the same thing, but it modifies a noun. So the only difference between a demonstrative pronoun and a demonstrative adjective is one replaces a noun, the other modifies a noun. So
I don't know what you mean.
You don't know what I mean?
No.
Well, okay.
What's the difference between it modifies and it replaces?
Okay. I will give you a good example.
Thank you.
Michael asked a question. I used the name Michael. If I said he asked a question, I used a pronoun to replace the noun Michael.
Correct.
Okay.
Got it so far. Yes.
Okay. So if it was an adjective, I might say something like, that Michael asked a question, or this Michael asked a question, meaning I'm sticking a demonstrative adjective in there in addition to the noun.
So in other words, the demonstrative one would be the this or that.
Among others, yeah, we'll see. There's a couple more, but yes.
Well, I mean, yeah,
usually in English it's like this, that, these, those, them.
You're being specific that you know exactly by that adjective use that you're talking about.
Yes.
This Michael, not you, Michael, but this
right.
Michael.
Right.
Got it.
Right. Exactly. And so, in English, the most common demonstratives I said are this, that, these, and those. And in English, they can function either as a pronoun or an adjective, much like Latin, by the way. So, example, noun replacement, see the nice ring? I want that, or I want this, depending upon. See the nice pearls? I want these, I want those. So we've replaced the ring and the pearls with our pronoun.
But you had to have that the noun prior to before you can replace it, because you got to refer back.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, got it. Okay.
Teresa asks, Michael, who asked a question, would be an adjective who? No, who is a relative pronoun in this case. Relative pronouns typically refer back immediately to the noun, or refer back to the noun immediately preceding them.
So it'd be Michael who asked the question. So
right.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, it's called a relative pronoun.
I'm glad you remember, Teresa, because I don't.
So
I've been out of grade school too long.
Yeah. So as adjectives, we can do the same thing. I want this or that nice ring. So I can use this or that as the pronoun, or I can use it as an adjective. So I want these or those nice pearls. So you can do it either way. And Latin's pretty much the same way. Okay. So as I said, they can function like English, they can function as either pronouns or adjectives. The difference is Latin has a much richer set of them, which can be confusing to the average or even above average English speaker, shall we say. Okay. So English has this, that, these, and those. Those are the most common ones. There's a few others in there, but those are the biggies. Well, Latin has is, ea, id, hic, haec, hoc, ille, illud, and ipsa, ipsa, ipsum. And there are actually a few others. But right now, we're just going to deal with these four guys just to keep them straight. And really, each one of these sets, like is, ea, id, can be this, that, these, and those. Again, singular or plural. So can hic, haec, hoc, this, that, these, and those. Well, actually, sorry. Hic, haec, hoc would be this, and the ille would be the that. So let's run through some of those there. So as I said, is, ea, id are not really personal pronouns, but they're demonstrative pronouns. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have seen them used for he, she, and it. Okay. And that's their simplest form. It literally, these really mean that one that I am talking about. But we don't say that in English. It's usually better to think of it as just he, she, or it. But you can see it. So when it's used as a pronoun, I would say just use he, she, and it. Okay. But it can be a demonstrative adjective, in which case it would be that servant, that handmaid, or, oops, I missed the I there, or that ornament. Okay. So in any case, it always refers back to a previously mentioned noun, just like you would in English. You know, the ring is on the table. It is very pretty. So now, just to show you, if we look it up in the dictionary, yeah, is, ea, id is a regular personal pronoun, he, she, and it. But it's also this or that woman or thing. Again, it is referring to something already mentioned and referring to the third person. So all we've seen it is as he, she. I think we've only seen it as he, she, and it so far in the Familia Romana.
Correct.
And okay, there's the declension table. And it sort of follows the USA and UM, kind of. I mean, well, sort of. AES in the dative and the ablative, and then an AE, and then in the ablative, actually in the ablative, it kind of forms these better. So it's not really regular, but it, as I said, it kind of forms it like the feminine ea. Okay, it ends in aeam. Okay, eus, well, that's different. Ae, that's different. Ea, oh, but that's the same again. Aa, eas, eatum, aes, aes. Oh, that's perfectly regular with respect to the first declension. So, any questions so far? So we're going to move on to some examples, which you've already seen in some form. Julius est vir Romanus, is in Tuscolo habitat. He lives in Tuscany. So is refers back to Julius, and we've seen this throughout the Familia Romana. Emilia est femina Romana. Julius est vir eius. Julius is her husband or man.
Okay, I got a quick question, Michael. The word est in the very beginning, I think slide number 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Did you also say that could also mean to eat?
Yes.
See, okay, now I'm totally.
Now, yes. And the important thing is it's long. There is a big fact. Yeah.
Okay.
Aced. Yes.
Aced.
Yeah.
Instead of is.
Yep.
Is.
So if
Got
S, yeah,
is,
is aced is eat. And by the way, as I said, that's probably why the Latin Vulgate just used commated, because that way, see, back then they didn't necessarily mark the vowels. So if you saw an aced in there, or an est, you'd have to kind of think a minute, like, what is he talking about here?
Yeah, does it mean to be or to eat?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. So, so they Jerome avoided the whole problem. And
that would certainly give Shakespeare an issue, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah,
to be or not to eat.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, Teresa, I'm glad you're in the class.
Or better yet, or better yet, to eat or not to eat.
Yeah,
that is a better question.
That would lead you to being or not being too.
Yeah, that's true. Either way, yeah, either way. Let's see. So, where was I? Oh, yes. Marcus et Quintus et Julia liberi sunt liberi Juliae et Emiliae. Again, we're using it as a pronoun. Marcus filius Julii est is, I always want to make that long. Is puer improbus est. So dragging some words.
So he is a good, he's improbus. He's a bad boy.
Yep.
I remember correctly. Okay.
Yeah. So that's is ea id. Okay. You're going to see him most of the time just as he, she, and it. And that's partially because there's a better demonstrative pronoun, hic, hec, hoc, which means this or these. Okay. It refers to something that is close by to the subject, near me. Yeah. So here, this man. Hic rosa, this rose. Hoc malum, this apple. He viri, these men. Hic is, by the way, now, to help you maybe keep it straight, remember hic with a long I is an adverb and it means here. So if I were going to say, I am eating here, comedet hic. I'm going to use comedet. Okay, so there's no no confusion there. So I don't know if that helps or not. Or maybe if you remember, hic, hac, hoc is here, and then hic is the adverb form, which means here. So this all refers to something nearby to the speaker.
You know, it's kind of confusing because the he vidi is plural, but then hic is like you say here.
Yeah, well, it's an adverb, so adverbs don't have gender, number, or case. Just nouns, nouns and
Okay.
adjectives. Yeah, so if I say I am here, well, I am would be sum or ego sum, I am. Here would be hic,
Hic.
ego sum hic, I am here, or hic ego sum.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you wouldn't, and if you were to say you are here, that would be 2s hic, you are here. Since hic is an adverb, there's the nice thing about adverbs is you don't have to conjugate them or decline them. So adverbs are your friend in that regard. Okay, any questions there?
Mm.
Press on. So here's some pronomia demonstrativa, demonstrative pronouns. Hic puer Marcus frater Quinti est. This boy, Marcus, is
Is
the
a brother of Quintus?
of Quintus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this boy, Marcus, is the brother of Quintus. Haec puella Julia, filia Julii et Emilia est. This girl, Julia, is the daughter of Julius and Amelia. Now, another way might be to help you keep it straight is a rather famous line. You don't hear it in the extraordinary form much because the canon is silent. But if you ever attend a Latin mass of the ordinary form, you will hear hoc est enim corpus meum, for this is my body. And hoc is very specific here. The priest is holding up the host at the consecration and the elevation, and is saying, hey, this. And Jesus in the Last Supper, he had the bread, he said this, and stuck it in the nose of the, well, metaphorically stuck it in the nose of the apostles, says, hey, this here. And then there's another one which is in the ordinary form. Hoc facite in meum commemorationem. Do this in my, or memory. In memory of me, or in my commemoration. Memory of me is how that gets translated, which I think is a little English. So that might be, oh, and then lastly, I forgot, ad hoc is for this purpose. So if you have an ad hoc committee, they have formed that committee for that particular purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They started that way, and as the way committees are, it probably branched out and mutated and did all sorts of things, but it started in life as for this. So that might help you keep the hic, hoc straight.
Yeah, I've seen the ad hoc in legalese.
Yes. Yeah. So, for a particular purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As opposed to being in hoc, which is totally different.
Yes. Oh, God.
Totally different. Okay. Now, ille, illud is the sort of the twin, or the anti-twin, maybe that's a better way of putting it, of hic, hac, hoc. because in this case, it means that or these or that or those, excuse me. So ile vir, that man, illa rosa, that rose, illud malum, that apple, ili vir, whoops, there's a missing I in there, shame. There we go. Ili viri, those men. And like hic, hic, hoc, where here is he, ilik is the adverb that means there. So I could say, ego sum hic et Teresa est ilik. I am here, Teresa is there.
There.
So, and this one is a little more regular than what hic, hic, hoc is, although they form almost the same pattern if you put them side by side. So ilum, ilam, ilud, ilius, and in hic, hic, hoc it's eius, and then the dative is the same across the board, and then the ablative has the O, the A, and the O that you would expect of a normal first or second declension noun. And then the plurals are very regular with respect to first and second declension nouns. So if it's hic, it's here. If it's ile, it's over there someplace. So I don't think that's too bad. And some examples. Hic puer non est filius Juliae, sed ile puer. This boy is not the son of Julius, but that boy. So in other words, that boy over there is the son of Julius, not this guy over here.
When I say Juliae, I have to remember in my head that AE does not necessarily mean it's feminine. I keep wanting to think it's a lady, like Julia, which doesn't make any sense in this case because.
Sorry about that. Whoops. I think I was going to put frater Juliae in there, and I didn't.
Is that short I, long I, or the way you have it?
Hold on. It's long, double long I there. Because Julius is, I hope I made him nice and long.
No, you had it right.
Where did here, no, oh. Ooh, now is Julius. I'm sorry.
It was just one long I.
I got an extra in there.
You got an extra long I. It's just,
I got an extra
the
long.
last I is long.
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
you.
That looks right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, sorry. Got an extra long I. So pretium huius annuli centum sestertii est, sed pretium ilius annuli nonaginta est. So the price of this ring is 100 sestertians, but the price of that ring is 90. So genitive, because we're talking the price of the ring, price of this ring, price of that ring. And lastly, if you remember the dies irae, the first line is dies irae, dies illa, which is usually translated as something like the day of wrath, that dreadful day. So maybe you can keep the illa straight if you remember the dies irae. Any questions there? Okay. Lastly, we have ipsa, ipsa, ipsum. And these are what are known as intensifiers. Okay. English has that. I mean, the easiest way would be to translate them as himself, herself, itself. The difficulty is English also has the reflexive form, like I gave myself dessert. Well, that's reflexive, because a reflexive pronoun means that the receiver of the object is, or the receiver of the action rather, is the subject itself. We'll get to those in a minute.
I think we had that in the last chapter.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
we'll get to the reflexives. Let's see. Yeah, here they are in a minute. But for the moment, we're going to do the intensifiers. So what do I mean by that? Medus annulum gematum pro Lydiae ipse emit. Medus bought a jeweled ring for Lydia herself. Okay. Oh, am I missing on the white? What do you mean on the white? Oh, wait.
Yeah, that's something you can't fix tonight, but
This one?
yeah.
Beginning.
Second line, middle column.
Oh, okay. That was a test to see if you guys would notice. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I just thought I'd let you know, so for
Thank
future
you.
use, you can make that correction.
Yeah, thank you.
What is the correction then?
Oh, okay. Here, let me draw it in. Let's see here. Can I do this freehand? Okay, we'll put a line in here. Oh, actually, here, let me do it this way. This is better. I'll put in some text. And then let me drag that over to here. There we go. There should be an I in ipsum.
Okay.
Left it off.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Glad
God, good eyes, Teresa. At least your eyes are good.
Yeah, your knee and your mouth may be all messed up.
Yeah, exactly.
So
something's got to work.
Yeah. So anyway, so notice, he bought the jeweled ring for Lydia herself. Now, we could certainly say he bought the jeweled ring for Lydia. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But by putting the herself in there, that emphasizes that, he just doesn't go around buying rings for everybody, but he bought a ring for her, or in this case, for herself. So it modifies, or it is used as an adjective here, as in the sense that, hey, we're pointing out that it was Lydia that he bought the ring for. Similar, there's a ipso facto, by the fact itself. I don't know if that'll help you remember it. Hopefully it will. Now, don't fall into it has to be himself, herself, itself, because we have a very nice, right before the Our Father, there is a per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso est tibi Deo Patri omnipotenti in unitate Spiritus Sancti omnis honora et gloria per omnia saecula saeculorum, which is usually translated as through him, with him, and in him is unto thee, God, the Father Almighty, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, all honor and glory unto the ages of the ages. That's a very literal translation, okay? So essentially, all honor and glory through forever, okay? And it goes back to the Son, through him, in him, and with him, or through him, with him, and in him. Now,
yeah, when the priest,
go ahead.
I was going to say, when the priest holds up the chalice in the and the host
Yeah, it's known
on the
as the,
patent, he'll
yeah.
say that in him, with him, in him, and through him, all honor and glory. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in
Okay.
both the ordinary form and the extraordinary form. It happens right before the communion rite, which starts with the Pater Noster.
Correct.
So yeah, so I mean, you could stick a self in here, but that really doesn't. We don't say that way in English.
It makes it
No,
really
no.
awkward in English.
Makes
Yeah.
it really kind of weird, you know. So through him, with him, and in him.
And in him. Right.
Yeah. So keep in mind there doesn't have to be a self in there. If you're using it in a construction such as like this, then yes, we're referring to Lydia herself. So, and let's see, do I have a couple of reflexive so any
Wait, go back to that last slide real quick.
what the reflexive?
Yeah, the very last slide you're on before you went to the next one. Yeah, the ipso. I was going to ask why you said up on top, Lydia ipse herself, but down here you have per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso.
Yeah.
What? That is correct, but we're using it just as through him, in him, and with him.
Okay. What?
Reverse.
Go ahead. Finish your question.
No, I was going to say then, what's the difference between that line and the one with Medus giving Lydia herself this ring or this gem?
Okay. He could have the liturgy could have said per eum et cum eo et in eo. Could have used the is ea id form, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you would have translated exactly the same.
Hmm.
Latin is making a distinction here that is really very difficult to do in English. As I said, this is an intensifier, okay? We are turning up the voltage, so to speak. We're pointing something out that's very important in the sentence. So if I said, so when we come
ipso isn't ipso an intensifier too then?
Yes. Oh yeah, they all are.
They're all versions of the same intensifying.
They're all
attempt.
versions of this. Whoops. Yeah, they're all versions of the same word. It's the ipsa, ipsum, ipso, and ipsum, and sorry, ipsum. So yeah, no, it's all the same word. Ipsa. Whoops. Shame on me. Okay, hold on. Wow. That should be an A. Let's see if I hold on. Let me make the style. Let's make it color, and we'll make it white. There we go. There we go. Let's see if I can make it smaller.
You do know how to skin those cats, don't you?
Yep. Whoops. Whoa.
Whoa.
I'm not sure what I did there. That was obviously the wrong keyboard equivalent. There we go. Come on, let's move that down a little bit. There. All right, there we go. So, yeah, it's it's the same word. I mean, feminine, dative.
Right. Because of Lydia.
Yeah.
You're referring back to her.
Sorry, feminine ablative, since pro takes the ablative. And so what they're doing in the liturgy here is they are being very specific about the fact that the consecration has occurred. The species of bread and wine have been converted into, or transubstantiated, if you prefer, into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. So this sentence is being very specific in that this bread and this wine is now the second member of the Trinity. So that's why they use the ipsum and the ipso and the ipso. And you really can't do that terribly well in English. We don't have a terribly good way of rendering that in English as precisely as it is in Latin. All we can do is say through him, with him, and in him. But him is kind of a generic it's kind of generic, who's the him, well,
Why wouldn't that be capitalized?
pardon?
Why
These?
wouldn't it be capitalized? No, the ipsum and the ipso and the ipso.
Because in English or in Latin, there really is no capitalization. The
Say
reason
that again. I'm sorry.
in Latin, there really is no capitalization.
Oh, okay.
So what we are doing now, what the standard in Latin is that if it is a proper name, then it is capitalized. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have God the Father. Okay, that's a proper name. And the Holy Spirit, that's a proper name. But he is lifting up it's the minor elevation, and he's lifting up the host and the chalice there. And in the ordinary form, he's turned towards the people. And actually, is that true in the extraordinary form as well?
No, he's not turning towards the people. He's still facing towards the tabernacle.
No, he's still facing towards the altar in the extraordinary form. That's right. But it's a very particular statement in that he is declaring the sacred species as the second member of the Trinity, and there's really no mistake about it in Latin. I think that's part of the problem we have in the church today is a very sketchy understanding by many people of what the Eucharist actually is. It is not a symbol. Okay. I mean, you can say it is symbolic in the sense of I'm trying to think of a good word there. But
I'll put it this way:
it is not merely symbolic. Let's put it that way.
The Nouveau Ordo Mass, they make it symbolic in a sense, where this is the actual the actual second person of the Trinity.
Yeah, well, this is in both the Novus Ordo and the Old Latin Mass. It's in there. The difficulty, though, is the English translation literally does.
It's not as specifically intense. Yeah.
It loses something in the.
It seems like it demeans it demeans it in a sense, if that makes sense.
I wouldn't
For
put
me
it that
anyways.
way. I would say the difficulty in English is that it is more ambiguous, whereas the Latin is being very precise here.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, I mean, okay, in the Latin, when he says that there are these flashing arrows that pop up pointing to the sacred species, so to speak.
Yeah, you hear the angels sing and the whole bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they do both in the ordinary form and the extraordinary form. So that's not the problem. And really, if you listen to the Latin in the ordinary form, then it is actually much clearer as to what the priest is referring to. So no, really what it is English just doesn't really have a good mechanism or a standard mechanism in the language to express that truth perhaps as clearly as the Latin does. And later, there's a lot of things, and this is why I'm kind of going through these, because Latin here is expressing some things that you really don't do normally in English. Yeah, we have this, that, these, and those, and that's it, pretty much. So, yeah, well, we also have himself, herself, and itself. But again, both of those share different meanings depending upon the exact construction of your sentence. Whereas in the Latin, they get pickier about exactly what you are referring to, and you'll see that later on. There are many things that Latin distinguishes that English doesn't. Now, to be fair, there are some things that English distinguishes that Latin does not. So it's a two-way street there. But in this case, the Latin is being very specific. He says here, this thing right here. Let's see. And do I have any? Oh, yeah. So any questions on the ipsa, ipsum? All right. The last one are the reflexive pronouns. The reason it's called reflexive is because it reflects or refers back to the subject of the sentence. The subject is the recipient of the action. Julia se vidit in speculo. Julia sees herself in the mirror. So who does Julia see? Herself. Okay. She does not see someone else. Julius sibi malum dat. Julius gives to himself an apple. So he is the recipient of the giving. He is the recipient of the apple. And so that's why it is called a reflexive pronoun. I think I have some more. Yeah, I've got a table down there. Okay, so that's the big difference, is you would not say Julia ipsa. Well, actually, if you did say Julia, let's say we put Julia ipsa vidit in speculo. That would be literally Julia herself sees in the mirror. Not Julia sees herself in the mirror, but Julia herself. In fact, you might translate that as looks. You might say Julia herself looks in the mirror,
as opposed to her girlfriend Maria or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a different animal between the two. So, and there are.
It almost seems like, I was going to say, they almost sound like they're so similar. I mean,
they are. Well, they are in English. Okay, they are in English because in English we use himself. Okay, let's see, where's the original? No. Okay, so in English we use himself, herself, and itself for the reflexive pronoun. Okay, and
but it's based on position in the sentence, not as the word itself.
Right, and for the intensifier. Okay, whoops, wrong. Yeah, we use the same words in English for the reflexive pronoun and for the intensifier. So when we say Julia saw herself in the mirror, then herself here is being used as a reflexive pronoun. But if I said Julia herself looked in the mirror, then that herself would actually be the intensifier. And the difficulty is English, same word. Okay. And in fact, the only difference is you move the self to there. You gotta put the herself next to the noun, because in English you got to have your nouns and your adjectives together. Whereas in Latin, well, you generally do that in Latin as well. But what I'm saying is the only difference is the word order in English. Whereas in Latin, you would say Julia se vidit, Julia sees herself, or Julia ipsa vidit, Julia herself looks in the mirror. So
Yeah, I'm trying to digest that.
Yeah, so well, that's why we're kind of going through this.
That would be like if Julia was there with her servant,
right?
Where you would say Julia herself looks in the mirror, not her and her servant.
Right. Or you could even do this. I don't know if this is helpful or not. It may confuse you. You could say, if you put, you could say,
yes,
Julia herself sees herself in the mirror.
Yeah, that's even getting more specific.
Yeah, not the
But
giant.
there's no doubt
monster.
if she was with a group of people and she's
Right.
the only one holding the mirror, looking at herself in the mirror.
Yep.
Okay.
So Latin actually would would distinguish between the two.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, ipsa ipsum, it's an intensifier. It wants to amplify who we are talking about. So, and Latin has a lot of amplifiers. So, more so than English or intensifiers.
I'm just trying to grasp between an amplifier and the reflexive.
Well, just keep in mind a reflexive pronoun is the recipient of the action.
Okay.
So who's the risk is, so sees what? Herself. So that part is reflexive.
Got it.
So, and in English, it always comes after the noun. Julius gives himself an apple, or Julius gives to himself an apple. Who did he give it to? Himself. So. Okay, as I said, they're never used in the nominative because if you ever said himself gave to himself an apple, people would probably look at you through the sides of their eyes going, what drug is he on? So it only exists in the accusative, the genitive, the dative, and the ablative. And except for the third person, it matches the table of pronouns from before. So the me, mei, mihi, mete, se, sui, sibi. These guys are new, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they are not at all the same forms as is, ea, id. They're their own animal. For now, you only have to really recognize the third person accusative forms. Well, or maybe maybe some of these others. So,
and that being the singular and the plural, we have to be
singular and the plural. Yeah. And the good news is you can either use say or say for both in the accusative and the plural. So
is say very common?
I've seen say more often. Now I haven't done an official count.
No census of the say, huh?
Yeah, yes. So, but yeah, you're going to see the data form of these. Yeah, you'll see the data form of those later on. Let's see, what do we got next? Oh yeah, okay. Differences. Both the reflexive pronouns and ipsa, ipsum. Let me make that italic. Have what I mean by is dash self ending, himself, herself, itself, etc. But again, they're not the same. And English does not distinguish between the reflexive and the demonstrative. I mean, it does by virtue of the position in the sentence, but certainly doesn't have the same word. So just yeah, be aware of that. So hopefully that clears that up. Let's see, what's my last chart here? Oh, okay. Julius liberi sui mala dat et malum cividat. Julius gives to his children apples and gives to himself an apple.
An apple.
And, yeah. And we already had Julia in speculo se vidit. Julia sees herself in the mirror. Ego, yeah, in fact, ego cartas ipsas scripsit. Would anybody like to try their hand at what that means? You haven't actually had the word cartas yet. But I'll give you a hint. We get the word chart.
I write the chart itself.
Right.
I got one.
Plural. Plural.
Wow.
I wrote the charts themselves.
Themselves, the chart plural. Okay. Almost got one.
Eas. But ego cartas me scripsit. I myself wrote the charts. So I wrote the charts themselves, and I myself wrote the charts. Slightly different meaning in both cases. So that's why it's kind of important to keep them straight.
They almost sound, they seem so close together. I don't.
They are. As I said, we're splitting hairs here, but they're hairs that need splitting in this case.
Okay.
But I could say ego cartas ipsas mea scripsit. I myself wrote the charts themselves. A little redundant, though, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You probably wouldn't say that way in English or Latin for that matter. So, all right. And okay, now I still have the third declension tables in there.
Oh my God.
We won't bother about them. Well, they've been there.
Yeah, but I haven't. God.
Michael
Okay.
rediscovers religion with every new chart.
I do.
Well, I'm glad that learning Latin is such a spiritual experience for him.
Oh, it's very challenging to say the least. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it is. It's learning any foreign language is not easy. Okay, I don't care which language it is. It's not easy. Okay, because
I'm still trying to learn English, to tell you the truth.
Well, you're doing a better job than some people. Let me tell you.
Well, you know what? This has helped. I mean, studying this, I'm getting a better understanding of English.
That is something that if you listed the top 10 reasons to study Latin, that is actually falls in that list, is that it gives you a stronger understanding of the inner workings of English, not to mention spelling for that matter.
Yes.
So yes, that's very true. In fact, Latin students generally score higher on the English sections of the SATs. And that's, that's not just because Latin students are inherently smarter, although I think we'd all like to think that. It's because that, they've grappled with it. And that's also a common complaint among any foreign language teacher is they first have to teach the students English.
Well, it's kind of funny because in English, when you speak it and read it, your brain is being taught a way to think.
Yeah.
Latin, it's like throw that rule out the window.
Yeah, you got to
Well,
dissect it.
Yeah,
and
well, no, you shouldn't. Well, you shouldn't normally have to dissect it. What you need to do, Michael said it exactly, is when you're reading Latin. Well, okay, when you're reading English, it's a particular pattern of thought.
Correct.
Well, when you're reading or speaking Latin, it's a particular pattern of thought as well, but it is a different pattern of thought.
Right.
And you need to
Exactly.
build those neurons. So
It's like, we put the verb in the end in Latin,
yeah.
but in English, it'll be right in the beginning or in the middle
in the
of the
beginning,
sentence.
yeah, it's usually up front. So
Yeah.
so it's trying not. I mean, eventually, there are places where you do have to dissect the Latin, okay, but you should try and avoid that and switch your brain into Latin mode.
Mhm.
Let it, and that's what the Familia Romana tries to do. It's kind of repetitive. It says it in several different ways. The idea is to
The
kind
only
of,
time I have to dissect it is when I don't know certain words in the sentence. Then I got to
yes.
look at each word. Then once I get that, then I can look at it overall and get a gist of what's being said.
Yeah, if you don't know the word, you're hampered.
Yeah, you're toast.
Yeah, it could be anything,
I will say that the way my brain is wired, having that that first year with Collins and stuff has helped me a lot because of the basic grammar I got coming into the Familia Romana. That helped me tremendously.
Yeah, well,
that's why I'm jealous of you guys. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, well, if we had done the Familia Romana first, I think you would have, and then we repeated it. You would have said the same thing. What Collins did is it exposed you to a lot of the grammar up front. So in that sense, when we came along into the Familia Romana, it wasn't as strange. For those of you that's first seeing this, it's strange because you haven't been exposed to it. So, but the advantage to the Familia Romana is you are reading Latin much and speaking it much earlier. And if we had a little more time, I would probably deliver some of my lectures in Latin itself.
Don't do this, please.
Well, we would start simple.
Okay.
I watched the video on the Mormons because they send their missionaries all over the world, and they get, I don't know, just like a matter of weeks, like 5 or 6 weeks to learn a language and then get tossed into the culture. But they do get teamed up with someone who's been there for a while who knows the culture and the language and stuff. But they're expected to land on the airport tarmac and be able to defend their faith, explain it to people. And that's pretty amazing. And you think some of these languages, I think the ones like Korean and stuff that are like a whole different written language as well, I think they get an extra week or two on those. But it's an intense, you jump in the first day and that's all they do is they speak in that language, period.
Well, when I was doing the homework, I'm just about finished with all the homework in chapter 8. In the part where they ask the question, I can sometimes I figure out what the question is, what they're asking, but I don't know how to. I'm struggling with responding back in Latin.
Yeah, and that's the other fun thing with a language is you gotta have your I/O bus going both ways, both input and output.
Well, I hate to say it, some of the homework in section 8, what I did is I keep rereading the passage, and all I was basically doing was kind of basically just cut and paste what was being said in the book, but I'm kind of questioning. I could say it in English, but that's not what I'm reading in the story per se. What the answer they're looking for, so to speak.
You lost me on that last sentence. I understand.
Pardon?
I understand you read the question You
Mhm.
basically understand the question, right? And then you go to the
What
book.
they're asking for, correct?
Yeah, okay. Then you go to the book and you find the related sentence of where that's handled. And then you pop that in and you
Well,
don't
it's
understand the answer.
Well, well, yeah. It was like, for an example, it was, why didn't Medus buy this ring?
Right,
And right away I knew it was because it costs too much. So now
right.
I'm reading it and I'm going, but I'm looking. You know what it is? I'm looking specifically because it costs too much. That's why he did not buy it. Where
Uh,
they say instead they'll use it. They use Pertilium. I'm going off the top of my head. Magnum Paterium, meaning it was too much.
Oh,
yes.
Pretium.
Pretium.
Or Princium. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I that one question. I must have worked on it for like 2 hours trying to figure it out.
Oh my.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, Michael. I'm struggling with this, but I'm going to get through it come hell or high water.
Yeah.
So when you read some of my answers, don't be too hard on me. And on some of them, I give more information than what they're really asking for. Because then I want you to go, boy, you really understand this, don't you?
Yeah, I've actually, across all of you, I've seen some rather impressive answers. And I've also seen some amazingly short answers.
Well,
Some of
it
the
seems like in the
questions.
book they just wanted very short, precise answers, and I'm sitting there going, "Well, I want to show you that I'm
Yeah.
getting the knowledge is coming forth."
Yeah. Yep. And it is a different process between reading and writing or speaking. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly easy, or well, it is easier to read it because
Yes.
you have little hints as to what's going on. So you go say okay, right here. Lupus se ab ove vertut ad canem. Well, you see, okay, that's the wolf. He turns himself from the sheep to the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of do that, well, all right, I forget what a dog is or what the accusative form of dog is, say, for example. But I know it looks something like that. So
Correct.
reading.
See, I don't even think in the accusative. I just think, well, the dog. I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
You're putting a case to it, which I.
Yeah. Well, the point being is okay, they could put canem, canis, they could put any dog form or sorry, or any gender, or not gender, sorry, they could put any case in there and your brain would make sense of it without necessarily realizing it was
But
a
because they use that particular one because of the odd in front of it.
yeah. But if you then had to write that down, then you'd have to recall each and every word. Okay. You'd have to drag it out of your memory as opposed to
Correct.
reading it passively. So
And that's what I generally end up doing, looking up each individual word.
well,
Going,
that's okay. That's okay.
All right.
It's okay.
That's why it's taking me a little bit longer.
Well, that's okay. Well, you're ahead of some people in the exercises. So,
Are you kidding me?
oh yeah, I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything since
Yeah, I noticed. I sent you. I think 3 or 4 today. I said I got to stay up on this because
yeah.
I haven't even started chapter 9's homework yet.
Yeah, I our lawyer friend and his daughter are woefully behind on their homework.
Oh, I bet they are. I was
So,
planning on doing some work last night, but I was obviously otherwise occupied with an ice pack on my cheek.
yeah, well, most of
So,
the ones here are almost pretty current. Yeah, and I'm a little slow on chapter 8 because of some of the mangled exercises where you give the answer you type the answer in very nicely, but because the questions are all jumbled, it's really that one over there. So I kind of have to figure out, okay, now this answer goes to this question, and they still haven't straightened it out. So I don't know what the problem is with that. So
Yeah, when they're asking just for, the singular or the plural of a
Yeah.
word, those fill-ins, no problem. I can breeze through those real quickly.
Good.
It's this stuff where you have to write it out. That's where I'm going, oh boy.
and that's intentional. You got to be able to do it both ways. Well, let me put it this way: even if you're just learning Latin, to be able to follow along the liturgy, and that's it. Nothing else. You don't want to write you don't want to become Pope and write the next encyclical or
No. The good thing with that missal, they give you the English alongside with the Latin, and I'll read the English, then look over at the Latin, read it, switching back and forth.
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah, I
good
find
way
that
to
really
reinforce
helpful
it.
too.
Yeah, that's a good way to reinforce it. But the point is, even if you're never ever going to write in Latin because you just want it for the liturgy, it's important to be able to practice the writing because it reinforces it. It builds those little neuron connections between the words
Uh-huh.
and the meaning. So,
Well, I want to be able to read it, and then when the priest speaks it, I want to be able to understand what
yes,
he's saying also,
Yeah.
both verbally and reading.
reading
Yeah.
it, and verbally is a step up harder, because with reading you can kind of be lazy. You can say
Mhm.
"Rupe se ab ove vertut ad canem." Okay, I got that. Well, I don't know about you, but at the final gospel, the amount of time it took me to read that, the priest would probably be 3/4 of the way through it.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, that's what when he's saying it, I'm reading it. So,
yes,
and I'm kind of like trying to mimic what he's saying to
yeah,
reinforce, to
yeah. I
try
don't
to
know.
get that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that last gospel, but it's traditional that
Oh
most
God,
priests kind of put the
I
pedal
know.
to the metal.
I hate to say this. I never knew there was a second gospel in the mass
Yeah.
until I started going to the Latin mass. I went, oh
Yeah,
wow.
that became a very popular. Okay, the that section of John became
Mm-hmm.
a very popular devotion in the early part of the second millennia. Let's call it the 1100s.
Yeah, that exactly. Yeah.
And what happened is it became so popular that it got added to the mass.
Hmm.
And I suspect we may have gotten it from the Eastern Catholics, because if you've
It
ever
wouldn't
attended
surprise me.
a Byzantine liturgy, they
Mm-hmm.
have the last gospel there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in both the Eastern rites who are in union with the Pope and those who are not. So I suspect it crept into the Roman liturgy. Now it was popular in the 11th century, and it became required in the 16th century with the promulgation of the Roman Missal after the Council of Trent. If you look at some of the ancient missals from other places, you will not see it. But yeah, it seems they put the pedal to the metal and zip through it. You will see that last gospel in a number of the books of the hours for private prayer books. It was a
Mm-hmm.
devotional liturgy, or sorry, a devotion for the laity as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, reading, listening, speaking, and writing are all four, can't count, different processes, but they all build on each other. And that's why it's important to try and do that. And the only thing that's unfortunate, let's see if I can, I've signed out.
Well, that was the whole purpose of me taking this class, because I wanted to understand the Latin Mass better.
Yeah, but keep in mind, let's see if it timed out. Oh, timed out. Yeah, keep in mind they do have, oh, come on now. what is this? Previous. Oh, hold on. Let me start all over again. There we go. Come on. Ah, there we go. Yeah, keep in mind that there is the reading with the audio, and then there's the audio alone.
Mhm.
I've asked them in the future to be able to set the speed on this, because if you just
pastor in erba dormet, ovis nigra, ab ovibus albis adet.
see, that may be just a little bit fast for folks, and it'd be nice if there's a way to slow it down.
Well, sometimes on the YouTube where he'll have
Yeah,
a chapter,
on the
I
YouTube.
can slow it down to 75, and sometimes I'd even slow it down to 50.
Yeah.
So I could really get that pronunciation down.
Yep. Yeah, it's and that's Lucas Ranieri, who's unfortunately doing it. Well, maybe not unfortunately, but he's doing it in classical, so the pronunciation's a little bit different. But hey,
Yeah.
just Dundee's from New York.
Hmm.
They say things differently there, right?
Oh yeah, it's a whole different language, a dialect.
So anyway,
Same thing
I
like in Boston.
think, or Boston, yeah, that might be even better. I think I'm pretty well worn out at this point, so I think I'm ready to just sort of end it there with class. Are there
I'm
any
fine with that. I mean,
any
Me
questions?
too.
I got a plethora of knowledge here that I got to go over and review.
Good.
Hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm recording you as you're talking on I got a little tape recorder, so I can play that back later.
Well, the videos are on YouTube, so.
Well, I think you might be missing maybe. I know chapter 9 didn't show up yet.
Oh yeah, that's true. I need to. I'm behind a couple. Well, I don't know, 3 classes.
See, that's what I need that reinforcement right
away.
You know, like most Ricky Tick right away.
Yeah,
You know?
how far am I? Oh my, I'm behind more than that. Oh my, really? 1, 2. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get these in order. There we
I
go.
know chapter 9 you don't have it all in there.
Yeah, here it is.
In chapter 8 you get you.
Yeah, I'm
1,
behind
2, and 3.
3 class. Well, including today's, I'm behind 3 classes.
Yes,
Yes,
I would agree
right.
with that.
Would
Yes.
be yeah, that's right. The last one would have been chapter 8. So okay.
Right.
Good point.
And I reviewed that one before class tonight, thinking I got to get this back fresh in my memory.
Yeah, and I think next time I'm thinking we will finish up chapter 9, and we might take a slight diversion where I'll have everybody write a paragraph or so about what's going on in the Familia Romana, and I'll bring an example. In other words, you
Okay.
can say something like Julius est via Romanus, Emilia est femina Romana, Julius.
Well, if you want just like super
Julius,
simple,
yeah,
yes.
Julius est vir Emiliae. Julius.
Yeah.
Emilius.
Okay. Yes.
Just to sort of get the practice of thinking something through and getting it on paper.
Okay.
The questions and answer, the questions and answers are a bit let's say it prearranged intentionally.
I know, but those questions that they ask and then you have to answer it, that really forces you to really buckle down on what you know and what you don't know.
Yeah. So I may do that. Not this next one. Let's finish up 9 first, and then we'll do it. And
as long as you give us an outline of what you're asking for. Yeah.
And chapter 10, chapter 10 is more of the third declension. You'll note that there's an interesting lack of the neuter. The neuter nouns have a slightly different pattern. So
Yeah.
The
Okay.
good news is the fourth and fifth declensions are really easy. We'll get to those. They're later.
Should we have all these charts that you've given us so far committed to memory? I mean, where you just because what's his name? Rainier, he did this thing like he did like one weekend. He wrote out each one like 100 times or 200 times.
Well,
and then
those
after 2 or 3 weeks, he was able to read Familia Romana with no problem.
Yeah.
Sitting there
Well,
going, boy, I wish I could do that.
well,
Well,
yeah,
everyone learns differently, so you
everybody
got to
learns
figure out what's for
differently.
you. Yeah.
But I do think writing some of these out a number of times will really, really help. I did that early on. The verbs are the ones that are the fun one, okay? Because you have so many different verb forms. Right
Yeah,
now,
the conjugations is like,
yes,
gee,
the conjugations, yes. Right now, the Familia Romana is making it easy on you. You have the third person singular and the third person plural. And the nice thing about those is that ends in T or NT across all,
Yes.
and it's present tense as well. So they're easing you through the declensions first, and then we'll build later on the other tenses. And well, you also had the passive tense as well. So
I'm also getting, I'm
passive
getting hung up
voice.
on that pluperfect, verb perfect.
Oh, just wait on those. We'll get to them.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get to them. We'll get to them.
You sound so
Teresa,
grateful.
what are you laughing at? Come on.
So
Be nice.
cute.
I'm a veteran. Come on, Veterans Day is coming up. Take me out to dinner.
I just love listening to you. That's all.
I can always say, see now it's Veterans Day. Take a shower with a Marine. That's on the Marine Corps birthday. I'm sorry. That's on the 10th.
So
Okay, cool.
yeah, we'll get to the other verb forms
Okay.
eventually. Yeah.
All right. I'm all, if you want to call it a night, that sounds very good to me.
It's almost 9 anyway, so
Yeah, I've got to. I'm actually going to try to drive to Dallas tomorrow. So this will be the first major test for the knee.
Mm.
Y'all throw some prayers for me in the morning.
Which
have fun when you're braking and accelerating. My knee,
is it your right knee or your left knee?
It's my right. So
that's the one.
Cruise control will be my best friend tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but wait till you get in stop and go traffic, city traffic.
Yeah, and I've driven my daughter Grace lives up in Fort Worth, and it used to be many summers ago, you would get past the airport roughly, and there wouldn't be anything until about Conroe. And then there'd be this brief flurry of traffic. And then when you got past Conroe, there wouldn't be anything all the way to Dallas. Those days are long gone. If you had to figure out where the city of Houston ended based on the traffic.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it actually end?
Yeah, it does, but it's about a third of the way to Dallas.
Yeah.
And then it starts up again about a third of the way out of Dallas. So, yeah, it's.
Well, I tested it out. I drove myself to the dentist yesterday.
Okay.
And I got there early. I had some extra time. So instead of parking my car, I decided to drive around some more. I did have a couple of twinges, but they passed. I was able to gut it up and get through them. And I really damaged the problem. My problem is today, my knee was feeling almost normal. And without thinking, I started walking up the stairs without my crutches.
Oh.
And I made like 3 or 4 steps and then realized what I was doing. And I did. They are, it is kind of messing with me tonight. So
yeah, be very careful with injuries, because it is super easy to re-injure.
Yeah.
And if you keep re-injuring, well, then the problem just gets worse and worse and worse. So.
Yeah, and that's been my problem. I've been getting too enthusiastic too soon. And
yeah,
so
you're gonna be, I don't recommend you drive with crutches. That's probably
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be an issue. I will keep them in the back seat, and I'll probably use
Yes.
them at my rest stops just to give my leg a break
Yes.
and stuff. So,
Definitely.
and once I get up to Dallas, I've got 2 granddaughters that'll tote and carry and fetch and everything for me.
Ah, that's good.
So they love their Nona.
That's good.
So
All right,
Yeah.
let's mute everybody here. And I did want to mention, yeah, let's finish up chapter 9, parts 1 and 2, and the Grammatica Latina as well, if you can, and the various exercises. You won't be able to get, I don't think you'll be able to get through all the exercises between now and then, but that's okay. That's okay. All right, oratio finalis. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Adveniat regnum tuum. Fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimitimus debitoribus nostris. Et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. And with that,